All right, so picture that you're in this like really charming town. It's called El Valle, and it's nestled in the crater of an extinct volcano in Panama.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's known for its beauty, but also for this thing, they got these golden frog figurines,
Mhm.
and like you see them everywhere, these bright yellow statues because they're like a good luck symbol. They even have them on lottery tickets.
Oh,
Yeah, but here's the thing. The actual Panamanian golden frogs, the ones that actually lived in the streams around El Valle, they've like vanished.
really?
Almost completely gone.
Wow. That's pretty jarring.
I
Like you see all these symbols of this thing, but the actual thing is gone.
Yeah, it's a crazy contrast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just like they were ordinary frogs or something. These things were vibrant, like almost luminous yellow with dark markings, and they were everywhere. So, their absence raises some pretty big questions like what happened to them? And like, what does that tell us about the bigger picture?
Exactly. Like, even if you've never thought about a frog in Panama, like, why should you care about this? That's what we're looking at today.
Right. We've got two main sources. One is a firsthand account that details this whole decline of the golden frog and the efforts to save it. And then there's this scientific paper asking if we're in the middle of a sixth mass extinction event just by looking at amphibians disappearing.
So basically, we're going to piece together the story of the golden frog and try to figure out what it means for the planet and what it all means for life in general, including us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the golden frog itself and its connection to this town, El Valle. It wasn't just another animal there, right?
Oh, no, not at all. The sources make it clear that the golden frog was like woven into the whole culture of El Valle.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a good luck charm, like deeply embedded in their lives. And the actual frogs, well, they were everywhere. One scientist who went to this place called Frog Stream said it was like absolutely insane, just frogs everywhere on the banks.
Wow.
It really gives you this picture of this place just teeming with these bright yellow frogs.
And that bright yellow isn't just for looks. It's basically nature's danger sign. Like, these
Yeah.
frogs are super toxic. Whoa.
Like one frog has enough poison to kill multiple mice. It's a serious defense mechanism for such a tiny creature.
That's crazy. So when did they start disappearing?
Well, about a decade ago. And the weird thing is, it didn't even start in El Valle. It started further west towards Costa Rica.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's this American grad student studying frogs in the rainforest, and she left to work on her dissertation. And when she got back, all the frogs were gone, like all the amphibians. It just shows how fast things can change.
It's kind of scary, right? Like, they didn't slowly decline, they just vanished.
Yeah, and it gets worse.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that one spot. She moved her study further east, hoping to find healthy frogs, but the same thing happened. It was like a wave of silence moving through the rainforest.
So this blight, as the source calls it, kept moving east.
Exactly.
And by 2002, the frogs near Santa Fe, which is about 50 miles from El Valle, were gone. And then 2 years later, in 2004, dead frogs started popping up closer to El Valle around El Cope.
Yeah, that's when biologists started to get really worried. They realized the golden frog was in serious trouble. They could go extinct.
So what did they do?
Well, Panamanian and American biologists teamed up and came up with this bold plan.
Okay.
They decided to catch a bunch of golden frogs and try to breed them in captivity, kind of like an insurance policy to prevent them from disappearing completely.
Interesting. So did it work?
Well, they had to get creative because their lab wasn't ready in time, but they couldn't wait.
No.
So they ended up putting these super rare frogs in a bed and breakfast.
Oh, way. Seriously.
Seriously. The article in the Kids magazine called it the Incredible Frog Hotel.
I love that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
They had first-class accommodations and room service with food that could hop right off the plate.
That's amazing. It's like a little safe haven for these frogs.
It is pretty charming, and you can see why Kids magazine would focus on that. But like you mentioned, just weeks after you read that upbeat story, you found a way more serious take on things.
Yeah, exactly. I found this paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. It was by these two herpetologists, David Wake and Vance Friedenberg, and the title was, "Are We in the Midst of the Sixth Mass Extinction? A View from the World of Amphibians."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a serious warning from scientists.
So not so much a frog hotel anymore.
Not quite. They basically laid out that our planet has gone through 5 major mass extinction events.
Right, where a huge amount of life on Earth just vanished in a short amount of time, geologically speaking.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button on life, but with horrible consequences.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they even talk about the Permian extinction, the one they call the Great Dying, which almost wiped out all life, and the Cretaceous extinction, the one that killed the dinosaurs.
Right. Those kinds of events are super rare. They happen millions of years apart.
Exactly. And their argument, and this is the scary part, is that based on how fast amphibians are disappearing, We might be in the middle of a sixth mass extinction right now.
Wow. It's crazy how different that is from the kids' magazine, right? One's talking about pampered frogs, and the other one has this grim photo of a bunch of dead mountain yellow-legged frogs just lifeless on the
Yeah,
rocks.
it's a really haunting image.
Hmm.
It makes the point that what's happening to amphibians isn't just a bunch of random events, it's a sign of a much bigger problem.
And they don't hold back on who they think is responsible. They say one weedy species, and that's us humans, has the ability to directly affect its own fate and the fate of most other species on this planet.
It's pretty sobering to think about our actions, even the ones we don't realize, could be causing a planet-wide extinction event, like the ones that completely changed Earth
Yeah.
millions of years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the people who are trying to fight this, like the folks at the El Valle Amphibian Conservation Center, or
Remember
EVAC.
EVACC?
Yeah, it's located near that market where they sell the golden frog figurines.
Oh.
It's actually pretty unassuming, like the size of a regular house behind a sloth enclosure at a small zoo. But when you go inside, it's like a different world. It's filled with tanks from floor to ceiling, like a library, each one with a different amphibian species.
It must be amazing to see the variety of creatures they're protecting there.
It is. There are tanks for all kinds of frogs, lemur tree frogs, big-headed robber frogs, horned marsupial frogs that carry their eggs in a pouch on their back, casque-headed frogs that embed their eggs in their skin, and of course, tons of tanks for the Panamanian golden frog, each one with its own unique needs.
So what are the golden frogs like up close?
They have this really distinct walk, almost like they're tiptoeing, and they've got these long, skinny legs, pointy yellow snouts, and these dark eyes that always look worried. And the biologists have tried to make their tanks like their natural habitat with hoses that create a little stream to mimic where they used to breed. They were so excited when they found eggs in one of the streams.
It sounds like they're doing everything they can.
They are. And the biosecurity measures are intense. Like, it's totally isolated from the outside like a bubble. Everything that goes in, including the frogs and the people, has to be disinfected. Visitors have to wear special shoes and leave any equipment behind, and the water's filtered and treated like crazy. It's like being in a submarine or Noah's Ark in the middle of a flood.
Wow, a modern-day ark. So who's running this ark?
This guy named Edgardo Griffith, he's the director of EVACC, he's Panamanian, and he's dedicated his whole life to saving these amphibians. He even got his American wife, who was in the Peace Corps, to become a frog person, too.
That's dedication.
He's been doing this for years, way longer than 40 days and nights, and he really values each frog. He says every one of them has the same value to me as an elephant.
Wow, I bet he's seen some tough stuff.
He has. He pointed out some species that are completely extinct in the wild now, like the Rab's fringe-limbed tree frog, which was just discovered in 2005.
Wow, so new, and they've gone just like that.
Exactly, and when I was there, EVACC only had one left. It's crazy how quickly a species can disappear.
That is really sad. What did those frogs look like?
They were greenish-brown with yellow speckles and really big feet. They lived in the treetops above El Valle, and the males took care of the tadpoles by letting them eat the skin off their backs.
Oh, wow. That's incredible, and sad that we might never see that again.
And Griffith thinks many other amphibian species in Panama might have vanished before anyone even knew they existed. It's sad to think about all the unique calls and roles in the rainforest that are gone forever.
It really makes you appreciate how long these creatures have been around. Amphibians are ancient, even older than dinosaurs. Their ancestors came out of the water like 400 million years ago, and the three main types of amphibians, frogs and toads, newts and salamanders, and the weird caecilians, they were all around by 250 million years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and their name amphibian means double life in Greek because they're so connected to water. Their eggs need moisture to develop, which is why they have so many cool ways to reproduce. Well, some lay eggs in streams, some in rain puddles, some build underground nests, some carry eggs on their backs or in pouches. And there were even these gastric brooding frogs that kept their eggs in their stomachs and gave birth to their mouths.
Whoa.
They were amazing. And after the supercontinent Pangaea broke apart, they spread everywhere, adapting to all sorts of environments.
Right. There are desert frogs in Australia that live in crazy dry conditions, and wood frogs in North America that can freeze solid in the winter and thaw out fine in the spring.
It's remarkable. But it's also why some scientists were skeptical when they first heard about amphibians disappearing.
Yeah, they're so resilient, it's hard to believe they could be in trouble.
Exactly. But the evidence was overwhelming. David Wake, the scientist we talked about earlier, said his students started coming back from frog collecting trips in the Sierra Nevada with nothing, which never happened when he was a student. He even went to known frog hotspots and only found 2 toads. And the scariest part is these disappearances weren't just in places humans messed up. They were happening in pristine protected areas like high mountains and cloud forests. The golden toad in Monteverde, Costa Rica is a good example. This scientist went there to study their mating, and after 2 whole seasons, he only saw one male in a place where they used to mate in huge numbers. And just so you know, the golden toad wasn't actually gold. It was bright orange and not closely related to the Panamanian golden frog, which is technically a toad too because it has glands behind its eyes.
It's crazy how quickly things changed.
Around the same time, scientists in Costa Rica started seeing other frog species, disappearing ones, that were both rare and common. In Ecuador, the jambado toad, which was everywhere, even in people's backyards, vanished in a few years. And in Australia, the southern day frog, which was super abundant, just disappeared.
It seems like something was killing them all over the world.
That's what they thought. And eventually they found the culprit, a chytrid fungus called Batrachocatrium dendrobatitis, or bleed for short.
So how did they figure that out?
It was kind of a fluke. A pathologist at the National Zoo in D.C. was looking into why blue poison dart frogs were dying in captivity, and he found this new fungus.
Interesting.
It was so different from other fungi, they had to create a whole new genus for it. They called it Batrachocatrium dendrobatitis, which means frog pot fungus.
So how does this fungus kill frogs?
Well, it infects their skin, which is super important for amphibians because they use it to breathe and absorb electrolytes. The brood messes that up so they can't get enough salts and minerals, and it causes a heart attack.
That's awful. And can't they just get rid of the fungus?
That's the problem. Even after it kills the frogs, the bread spores can stay in the water and soil for a long time. So even if they breed frogs in captivity, it's almost impossible to put them back in the wild.
Yeah.
You can't disinfect a whole rainforest.
That's so discouraging.
It is. The people at EVACC are pretty pessimistic about ever releasing the golden frogs back into the wild. One guy, Paul Crump, said he hopes they can make things like they used to be. But then he admitted it sounds kind of stupid when he says it out loud.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And to make matters worse, the beet has spread all over the world. It wasn't just one outbreak. It spread in multiple waves from both the west and the east, hitting South America and Australia. It seems like there's no stopping it now.
It's a global pandemic for frogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to extinction. Scientists talk about background extinction, which is the normal slow rate that species disappear over time, and mass extinctions, which are sudden, huge losses of biodiversity.
Right.
So for mammals, the background extinction rate is super low, like one species disappearing every 700 years or so. Amphibians are similar, maybe one every 1,000 years. The point is, it's pretty rare for a species to go extinct under normal conditions.
But mass extinctions are totally different. They're like a sudden spike in the death rate. Scientists describe them as events that wipe out a huge chunk of life in a really short time, geologically speaking. One scientist said it's like Earth's history is mostly boring with occasional moments of panic.
That's a good way to put it. And during those mass extinctions, entire groups of animals that were dominant can disappear or become much less important. It's like a changing of the guard, but on a global scale.
So what does that mean for us now?
Well, the current extinction rate for amphibians is 45,000 times higher than the normal rate. That's not just a little increase, it's a massive jump. And it's not just amphibians. Extinction rates are rising for corals, mollusks, sharks, mammals, reptiles, and birds. It's a crisis for lots of life on Earth.
And it's happening everywhere, right? From islands to the ocean, from the Arctic to the desert.
Yeah, everywhere. And when you look at what's causing it, you keep coming back to humans.
It's our fault.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
While brood can spread locally through water that can't explain how it showed up in faraway places all at once, it had to have help from us.
So how did we spread it?
There are two main theories. One is called the out of Africa theory. It says brood spread through the trade of African clawed frogs, which were used in pregnancy tests in the 1900s. Those frogs can carry brood, but they don't get sick from it. The other theory points to the North American bullfrog, which has been introduced all over the world as a food source. Bullfrogs can also carry braid without getting sick. So basically, we took these frogs and spread them around the world, and they brought the deadly fungus with them.
And now it's killing frogs everywhere.
Pretty much. It's a huge problem. But even with all this bad news, Edgardo Griffith, the guy from EVACC, still goes out looking for frogs. He's hoping to find some isolated groups that might be resistant to braid.
So he hasn't given up hope.
Not completely. The article describes one of his trips to Chagres National Park. It sounds intense, driving for hours on rough roads, listening to Jimi Hendrix hiking through dense rainforests with ants and snakes everywhere, and sleeping in a hammock that felt like a coffin.
That sounds rough.
Yeah, and then at night they went out looking for frogs, using headlamps to spot their eyes. They found some really cool species like The San Jose Cochrane frog, which is almost see-through, orangey red frogs that blend in with the forest floor, and bright green Warsowich frogs that look like leaves. Griffith swabbed every frog they found to test for blid, and they even found a pair of Panamanian robber frogs mating, so they left them alone.
That's nice of them.
They were also looking for the horned marsupial frog, which has this crazy mating call that sounds like a champagne bottle popping. Griffith even imitated the call to try and find them.
Did it work?
They did find a male, but they were hoping to find a female for their breeding program.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah. In the end, they only brought back a few frogs, 2 blue-bellied poison frogs, and 1 unidentified salamander. It's sad to think those animals might never touch the rainforest floor again, and their offspring might only know life in a tank.
That's a sad thought.
At the end of the article, you talked about this weird dream you had where a bright yellow frog was smoking a cigarette. It was a really surreal image.
Yeah, it just felt like this perfect symbol for how bizarre and messed up this whole situation is.
So to sum up what we've learned, the disappearance of the Panamanian golden frog isn't just a local tragedy. It's a warning sign that we're in the middle of a 6th mass extinction. And the main culprit is this fungus braid, which we help spread all over the world.
And as we talked about earlier, this isn't just some faraway problem. It affects everyone. The loss of biodiversity anywhere on Earth can mess up ecosystems everywhere. The decline of amphibians is a symptom of a much bigger problem that we all need to pay attention to.
And that brings us to a really important question for you, our listener. Knowing that humans are a big part of this crisis, what is our responsibility? What can we do, even small things, to create a better future for all the amazing life on Earth? Think about what it means to live in a world with less diversity. What would that be like, and what can we do to prevent it?
It's a question worth pondering.
Definitely.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.